How do you see it, sir?
I don't know. I'm not at peace with myself when I discuss Nigeria, because to be at peace with myself is to be blunt and say it as it is. The situation in Nigeria is beyond words. Like I wrote years ago, even at the age of 16, my Adeniyi poetry series on Radio Nigeria. Ohun tójú ń rí lóde òní kọjá ohun tẹ́nu lè sọ, ọbẹ̀ àmì ọ̀rọ̀ tẹ́tí sì ń gbọ́ kọjá ohun tá a lè dé léròyìn ayé òde òní ayé tótó. You know, the things you hear, the things you see are beyond comprehension, are beyond words. Nigeria, whatever that word means, is a place built on fraud. The British colonialists came on the pretext of coming to do trade, on the pretext of coming to do business, on the pretext of coming to civilize, in quotes, civilized barbarians, in quotes, and then got Nigeria, the area, as just a piece of land, a piece of property, which they then bought from some people who don't know who they are, some nameless people. They say signed some documents with them, some agreement. But even signing an agreement was just a subterfuge. It's just make believe, because it was conquest. So to say that anybody signed any document is just a mere academic. They didn't have to sign anything. In any case, they put a gun at your back or on your head and they say, sign this document. That's not an agreement. So Nigeria was seated the piece of land which we before this colonialists came. You have the Yoruba doing well, you have the Hausa doing well, the Hausa kingdoms were doing great. The Igbo nation were doing great. The Izons, they call it Ijo, they are doing great. So you have so many people. You have the Kanuris doing beautifully well in the Borno region. So we had all these nationalities, and they had their countries, they had their nations, before somebody just forcefully merged goat and dog and sheep and tiger and lion, put all of them together and compelled them that they must live together. And then that force has remained in force till today, since 1914. And at the time they are doing it, they say, okay, well, after 100 years, you may, disband, and everybody could go their way if they chose to. But then our greedy, selfish, and self-centered politicians had refused to let go. And those who are benefiting from this rot will continue to ensure that those who are not happy in the marriage will not be able to go. I mean, it's a forced marriage, and people are suffering. And what I would say about Nigeria is that it cannot hold for long. I mean, anybody knows that. I mean, Papa Olo told us that years back. If you read Path to Freedom, it's not sustainable. It was not sustainable in Yugoslavia. It wasn't sustainable in Czechoslovakia. It wasn't sustainable in the old India, and that's why Bangladesh went away and Pakistan went away. So it's just not sustainable. So anybody who argues that Nigeria will remain one country forever is just living in fool's paradise, because it's not going to be so. Worse still, the way it is structured, the way it is being run by the heartless, selfish, unkind, insensitive, arrogant politicians who are traders. They're not politicians. Even when we say with their politicians, we are still they're not politicians, because that's not the way to play politics. They are just businessmen. They are just roguish businessmen who establish companies and they invite their friends and those who are also roguish like themselves, and then use thugs, use subterfuge and all sorts of cunning to steal power and impose themselves on helpless people. I mean, when you have, see the northern part of Nigeria, see millions of uneducated people, then you say they vote people into office. How can anybody not understand, who doesn't know the difference between his left and right, be the one to decide who will be the governor or who will be the president? So we're just deceiving ourselves. So when they say people are voting, who are the people voting? Do they understand what they're doing? And that was when Plato said the government of the people, by the people, for the people, it didn't include plebeians, it didn't include women, it didn't include children. It was government of the people. The people at that point in time were landowners, the gentry. And you will know that even the United States did not allow women to vote until, maybe the beginning of last century. Even in the United Kingdom, in Britain, women were not even allowed to write. And that was why the early writers in Britain were using pen names, and they're using males' names, because they are not allowed to. So you have a situation when some people who had stolen power are deliberately excluded more than 60% or 70% of existing population from deciding who will be the rulers, who will be the governors, who will be their leaders. Then you know that there's no democracy, there's no freedom of choice. And Nigeria's situation also arose from the jackboot, that what you have today, which has compounded our woes, is dictatorship constitution. A constitution which allows a man, one person, whether man or woman, to be able to dictate, to decide who will be your head of police, the head of security, to decide who will be the head of the army, decide who will be the head of intelligence, to decide who will be the head of the judiciary, to decide who will be the head, from Obasanjo's time, the president was removing Senate presidents like women changing their pants. So when you have such powers invested in one person, like I said, and I've said several times, even if it's a goat is made president of Nigeria, there will be no difference. There's nothing that goat can do. Actually, if it's a goat that is ambitious, if it's a goat that will want to be in power forever, so it will lash on to this dictatorship constitution and even prevent efforts to change the constitution or to amend the constitution. And then they toy with the idea that people in the House of Assembly or National Assembly can amend constitution. How can you ask a knife to carve its own handle? Constitution making or drafting is not the business of the House of Assembly or National Assembly, because they are beneficiaries. You can't be deciding on something on a situation where you are going to be a beneficiary. So that is why constitutions should be made by the people, because it's the constitution that will govern how the people should rule and how people should live.
That's the first line of the constitution. We the people.
Exactly, it's a lie. Salami, or they call him Absalami. He called himself Absalami. He knew. It was a decree, whatever, I don't remember, maybe decree 47. It wasn't a constitution, it was a military decree. Even the one that Obasanjo used, the one of 70, the one that handed over power to the civilian in 79. It was made. It was a product. It was established by decree. So it's not we the people. That's not we the people. I didn't take part. You didn't take part. Somebody would just write something in their bedroom and say we the people. So we don't have a constitution per se. But more than that, what they gave to us is a military constitution, and it's not a constitution; it's a military document, and it's a dictatorship constitution. And until that dictatorship constitution is changed or jettisoned, there can never be progress. Because you have a constitution where you cannot police the police. If a president decides to be roguish, there's no power that can stop him. Nobody can stop him. If a president decides that he's going to spend money on Lagos to Calabar without going through the National Assembly, that's nothing anybody can do. When Buhari was doing certain things, as the so-called assembly even said, no, the people demonstrated. But you cannot, and they also put this stupid law, this ridiculous impunity clause. You can't even take them to court while they're in office. So a president can commit murder and rape for 4 years, and you cannot do anything until he leaves office. And by the time he leaves office, the successor, maybe is a protege or whatever, cannot have any muscle to query him or to take him to court. Nobody has taken anybody who had ruled this country to court. Nobody took, some of them died. Nobody took Gawan to court. Nobody took Babangida to court. Nobody took Salami to court. Nobody took Obasanjo to court. Because they won't, they can't. So you have a situation where what the Yoruba call Atobimashi Bawi, you have people whose position has made them far and above every other person on the land. And that is worrisome. Because dictatorship may decide to be tyrannical, may decide to be totalitarian, may decide to be anything. Because there's no check, no balance, nothing. You don't have, as we have Nigeria today, there's no judiciary to talk about. There's no National Assembly at all. Unfortunately, the media, to some extent, have been compromised, but I still give kudos to Nigerian media. But for Nigerian media, all of us will have been driven underground, will have been driven to the sea. But for Nigerian media, that's why I still give kudos to them. But the National Assembly has gone to sleep. It doesn't exist. And look at all of them. More than 90% of them should be in jail by their antecedents, by what they've done. Some of them were chairmen of corporations, some of them were ex-governors and all that, some of them. And you look at the antecedents, you know how many scandalous cases are hanging on their necks, and they're still there. So when you have a collection of career criminals, what do you expect? So I don't want to discuss Nigeria because it makes me sad. It makes me sad that people are suffering and they are so idiotic and so compliant. I don't know why the people they call Nigerians are going through this kind of pain and they are not reacting. And I just say there will be divine intervention. Divine intervention what? Like I said, there cannot be action without action. There cannot be any action without action. So if you must have an action before you can, when you say reaction, there's always the word action there. So I don't know what to say when you say, what am I going to say about Nigeria? I don't want to discuss Nigeria because I don't know who to blame or what to blame or to stop blaming. And I don't want to join the bandwagon of people who are just lamenting. Because when you read newspapers, you listen to commentaries and whatever from everybody in the judicial, people in the marketplaces, taxi drivers, all of them are lamenting. We are all lamenting. Even what I'm saying now is just lamenting. We are lamenting. And lamentation cannot solve the problem. People must take action. In my days, in my time, I took action. And there are so many examples to reference. And there are other people too. I wasn't the only one taking action. A lot of people took action. Shegun Okewo took action. Adelusi Yes, Adeniyi.
What does he do, sir?
Well, he and Falashe and Shulaja were the people who prevented Britain from dragging Nigeria into World War. It was they who fought against Anglo-Nigerian Pact, military pact, when they were university undergraduates. Julius Adeniyi. He was the leader of that group, even though they give credit to Shulaja, who was the president of Nigeria.
Sir,
I was just lucky that I had the endowment to do my best, either as investigator or as investigation journalist or campaign journalist and columnist. And I had opportunities to serve as heads of some institutions, Tribune, Sketch, Daily Times, and so on. But what I consider most fulfilling for me was the ability, again, gift from Olodumare, to write as a woman, write as a socialite, write as a parlor, as a beer parlor man, and also write serious articles. So I was writing 2 articles for Lagos Weekend, which was not very serious paper. And I was writing 2 articles for Evening Times, 2 articles a day for 6 days in Evening Times. That was 12. 2 in Lagos Weekend, 1 in Sunday Times, 2 in Daily Times. So at the end of the week, I must have written 16 columns. And I carried that tradition to Sketch. I didn't write 16 columns in Sketch. I probably wrote about just 4 columns. In Tribune, I wrote about 12, 13 columns a week. So that I find very fulfilling. And that's why I was able to do some compilation. And the 1,400 pages you see in the voluminous book in my compendium is just volume 1. Or, the Belly of Vultures.
any regrets in life, sir?
Nobody?
Any regrets in life, sir?
No regret whatsoever. No regret whatsoever. But I believe in life after life. I believe in life after this transition. If I'm coming back again, if Olodumare would put my soul in a human body again, I want Olodumare to put me right in Ijebu land and right in Yoruba land. But not a Yoruba land that will be compromised or that will be pushed into union, into an unholy marriage. I want the Yoruba land that my great-grandfather lived in, without Oyinbo intervention, without any incursion from any other culture. But regret, no. If there was any regret at all, which is not personal, is that I find myself living in a space or sharing space with the criminals, the selfish people, the people who are so inhuman. That is, I'm sharing space with people who are not in any way better than animals. Because if you look at my article, The Baboon of UI, which I wrote in Tribune, if you go to UI Zoo, if you put 100 pieces of banana, the baboons surprisingly will kill. They take the one in front, will take one, move aside, the second one take one, then they will do the circle until they now go back and pick one. Believe me. And that's why I wrote Baboons of UI in 1979. So when you have human beings who call themselves human beings and are worse than baboons, my regret is that I find myself sharing space with such characters. And I regret that the younger people are sharing space with those who are stamping their feet on them ceaselessly. Selfish people, heartless people, insensitive people. I mean, how can this boy, he's just 60-something, the boy, they call him the boy in Kano, Sanusi, how could he say they should put, they're talking about 175 million to service his cars? And I'm sharing space with such people as I'm living in the same country with such people. They found something billion in somebody's account. You know, and the Nigerians will just allow that to pass. You see my nan, the boy who stole every naira in the pensioners whatever. Nothing happened to him. Maybe they say they jailed him and it's out and so on. They used leg and all that. So if there's a word called regret, yes, I regret that. I wish I wasn't born into such, or I didn't grow up with such a character, such. I didn't grow up with a country that had become so heartless. I enjoyed the days of Awolowo. I enjoyed the days of Ahmadu Bello. I enjoyed the days of Azikiwe. I enjoyed the days of Aminu Kano. Because they had vision and they wanted to serve. But not now. We just have traders. But it was Julie who was at the vanguard of that struggle. So in that time, and they were all at the time they were just in the early 20s. And that's what I expect from people who are now in their early 20s, who are in their late teens, to do something. Because they can't just keep lamenting, they must do something. Bolage taught us to organize, to just lament at the beer parlor, lament in your bedroom, lament with your friends. It's not going to solve any problem. So we are looking at solutions. I've canvassed, I've said, people must stop worshiping politicians. They must stop worshiping people who are punishing them, people who have impoverished them. They should ignore them. They should let them know that we are not happy with them. Nigerians must stop being servile. They must stop behaving like slaves in their own land. No Yoruba Oba will in Yoruba kingdom of Yo. No Yoruba Oba will trample on people's. In Yoruba land, we had checks and balances. If an Oba misbehaved, they would tell him to go and commit suicide, or they drive him out of town. But no. And like I said, since there are no political parties, these are just businessmen. So one business will close down, or then they take their staff members and put them in another business. So when you people in the amalgamated personal company APC, when they need to strengthen their business, then they bring people from other business that had collapsed, like PDP, which is people's dividends pocketed, because they pocketed people's dividends. So this, the PDP is people's dividends pocketed, so they can push people from that to join the amalgamated personal company APC, and then the battle continues. So no political parties, and so because they are all the same people, look at Gemandi. He was at a point in time, Barnabas was at a point in time national chairman of PDP, but then he became, now in APC. You have Abdullahi, who was the governor of Nasarawa, who was chairman of PDP for several years, was a senator under PDP, was governor under PDP for 8 years. And then at a point in time, he also became national chairman of Amalgamated People's Company. To show that no principles, no ideology, no scruples. They just move from one business to another. You go from Leventis to Coca-Cola, from Coca-Cola to Glanzo, from there you go to any other company. So that's what is happening. And the people who live in the Nigerian space, they are just like Agbiru. So I don't know. I don't know.
How does it make you feel? You've been writing for over 40 years, or you've written about practically all the problems and
I've
challenges?
been writing since '59. They celebrated my 60th anniversary in column writing in 2019. You know, and but nothing has changed.
How does that make you feel, sir?
Well, like I said, I wouldn't say it makes me unfulfilled, because I think, gratitude to Olodumare, I see myself as a fulfilled person. I mean, but I feel disappointed. I feel disappointed that people you are preaching to, people you think you are addressing and you are trying to make them wake up, continue to behave as if they are deaf and dumb. I just don't see how Nigerians could cope what is with them. How can you have your currency that at a time Nigerian currency was $1 to $2, you know, and now the same currency, you now have 1,500, 1,600 to $1. I mean, it's inconceivable. And people are going through it and they're just behaving as if nothing has happened. What the devaluation has done is that people living in this space called Nigeria have been so seriously devalued. They've been so seriously devalued. If you are a radio mechanic, when you are called out to do service in Canada or America, they pay you for even calling you out. If you are called out in Canada, you are paid $15 for even for being called out. Then they charge per hour. So the same, you have a radio, you call a radionic to repair it, the same knowledge that the person in Ibadan is using is the same knowledge that the person in Canada, America is using. He spends 1 hour repairing it, is the same number of hours that is rendering service. But for the 1 hour you manning, the same radionic spends in Canada or US is earning about maybe $100 or $200. Now compare with the person, the same radionic in Nigeria, the same sense, the same education, the same knowledge, will render the same service and is paid a pittance. So what that means is that the value of the man, that is devaluation. The service of that man, which is his total value, is the one that you have thrown into dustbin. So the geography professor in Nigeria who will teach for 1 hour and get maybe 10,000 naira, the same professor of geography will teach for 1 hour in the US or in France, and he will get, if he's getting 100 naira here or 1,000 or 10,000 naira, will use the same brain, the same person will now go to Canada or America and teach the same geography for the same 1 hour and will be paid about 1,000 times what the same man is being paid here. So in essence, it's the value of that man that is devalued. It's the man that has been reduced to nonsense here. The same doctor, the same nurse, a nurse here earns, I don't know what they earn, but the same nurse will go to UK and will be paid £49 per hour. So you are devaluing, you cannot devalue a currency that you cannot be, you can't float your currency. You don't print dollar. It's not your currency. How can you match you put your own currency against that currency and you float your own? It's ridiculous. It's madness. It's economic madness. And then people are going through it. They are suffering. I mean, Nigerian children are suffering. The elders, Yatimo Ondara, they try to cope, but the younger people. You look at a girl, 29. She can't find a husband because the husbands are not available. She herself doesn't know no direction. So you have a 29-year-old, just about maybe 20 years or 25 years to the end of her life, productive life, before she goes into menopause. And you just leave her there. I think I will refer you to it again. I publish it in City People. Nigeria's adult children. I've always asked people to go and read that article. Nigeria's adult children. Nigeria's adult children by Tola Adeniyi. They are adults, but they are children. You have a 30-year-old man who has spent maybe 6 years in the university, hasn't graduated. If he's going out, the father will still have to give him transport money. If it's a woman, the mother, the parents still give her money to buy women's needs at 30. So she's a woman, she's an adult, but she's a child. And because she must satisfy biological needs, the man who is 30 will naturally have girlfriends or whatever, will want to behave like an adult, but he's a child.